Greetings, science and math educators. Making this short video just to tell you about a game, a simulation model that I just came up with for my middle school science class called Pandemic Island. And it's available on Teachers Pay Teachers also if you're interested, but I'll tell you about it here. You can make your own version or pick up the one that I created. So this was developed originally as an alternative to in-person disease transmission activities, right? We have those fun activities on our class where we're mixing different chemicals together, and in the end we see which students have transmitted a disease to the other students in class. Well, I was not able to do that during this 2020 COVID-19 pandemic school year, so I wanted to come up with a different version, and that's where Pandemic Island came from. So working as an epidemiologist, the student's role is to investigate the way an infectious disease spreads through an isolated island population. So think about a Pitcairn Island or something like that, where you have 40 or 50 people living on an island together. What would happen in the event of a global pandemic and then patient zero arriving on that island and the disease spreading? So the scenario is that their team of epidemiologists has been hired by the government of a small isolated island in the South Pacific to make recommendations for public safety in the event of an epidemic or pandemic. Your first task is to run a simulation model in order to investigate the pattern of a disease spread. The disease would spread through this isolated island population. And the way the simulation model is played, or the way that it runs, is usually using digitally using a word processing program like Google Docs. And so here is one that has ran for about 4 rounds of the simulation. There's 4 new infections per round in this model, and 50% of the individuals die each round. So the mortality rate is 50%. Patient zero is right here. We signify patient zero by highlighting them in bright red. When a person dies, then we highlight their square in dark red. I'm sorry, to infect patient zero is we change the font color to bright red, and when a person dies, we highlight them in dark red. When we get a new infection, we signify that as dark red. And an uninfected person is represented here just in black, the black font down at the bottom. A5, A6, and B6 have not been infected. All right, so this is a basic model of disease transmission that does not include immunization at all. There's no acquired immunity in the form of a vaccine or from exposure to the pathogen. So as a teacher, when you share this with your class, the idea is that you can run it once over the course of maybe 2 class periods, just to get students familiar with the idea of the way a disease might transmit through a population. But then as students acquire more information about vaccines and immunity, and strategies to reduce the spread of a disease, you can have your students add new rules and create their own version of Pandemic Island. And so in my class personally, I'm doing it more as a sort of project-based activity where we look at the career of being an epidemiologist. We run this model a couple times, and then I'm going to have students in groups produce their own version of this by improving it, either changing part of it, maybe adding a rule, maybe coming up with a way to do this digitally using Scratch programming. I'm not sure what they'll come up with, so we'll see. When students are done running the model, they complete an epidemiology team report. It's really light on the math, and it's really focused on open-ended analysis, getting conversations started, getting students interested in this idea, in the career, and getting them invested in the power of modeling, and especially in this time where we find ourselves in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so there's a little bit of math, and that's just what % of the population is alive and not infected at the end. There's so much room for more statistical analysis, but I'm a science teacher, so I didn't take it that route all the way. Okay, so that's basically what they're going to do: fill out an epidemiology team report. They run their simulation model using Google Docs or even Microsoft Word, or you could print it out on paper and have them do everything with markers or colored pencils. And that is Pandemic Island. You can find it on Teachers Pay Teachers, and I'll put a link there to my STEM Adventures Teachers Pay Teachers site. So check it out. Send me a message if you have any questions, and I hope it works for you.